I want to tell you a story about one of our students that graduated from the school in the Philippines. I met Richard, probably my second time going there. When he applied to come to the school, Pastor Ferds read the application and decided he had too much of a disability to be able to be at the school. He was blind, completely blind in one eye and almost totally blind in the other eye. He really needed someone to help him around all the time. And he was ready to deny him. And the Lord spoke to Pastor Ferds and said, no, you take him, allow him to come. And so Richard completed his 3 years there. And during that time, he planted a church in the barangay. And a barangay in the Philippines is a village within the municipality of a town. And so Richard planted this church, and it was just in a person's home. And their homes, of course, are very third world standards, developing world standards. You know, many times it's a dirt floor, sometimes they have a concrete floor, but that's where they gathered. And then they worked over time to build that church. And they built it out of coconut wood and banana leaves and thatch and those kind of things that are available in the Philippines. And when the time came to dedicate that church, it was my privilege to be there. And I found out when we were there, his mother was working in Hong Kong, and she came for the dedication. And I found out prior to that, when he found out she was coming, that the reason he was blind was because she had tried to abort him. But when he came, even though he was, I imagine, very premature, he lived. But the abortion caused him the blindness. And she came, and during that time, she repented and asked his forgiveness in front of the church.
It's my fault. I'm sorry, Richard. I'm sorry, my dear. But it all happened. But you know what he said? Stop blaming yourself, Mama. Because if you did not abort me, you did not make me like this, maybe I'd be just like my sister, my brother, who were just...
The presence of God that was in the place at that time was so heavy and so otherworldly. The people were weeping, and it just caused such a spirit of the love of Christ and the understanding of the forgiveness of God that it was amazing. And so Richard continued to pastor that church, and he had a well beside the church. And a lot of times, most of the times in the Philippines, when they're able to build a church, they build a little room on the back, and that's where they live. And so Richard had this well where he drew the water for it's just a pump, where he drew the water to do his wash or live or drink or whatever. And people have their wells. There's other wells in the barangay, but they started to come to his well. And they kept doing it, and finally he said to them, why do you keep coming to my well when you have a well? Is your well dry? And they said, no, Pastor Richard, for some reason your well has the sweetest water. And so we want your water because it tastes so much better than ours. And it's just those things like that God just does, I don't know, those God moments where in places like that he is shows himself so precious and real. And I'm so glad that Pastor Ferds listened to the Lord and said yes to Richard.